Ethiopia's recent decision to sign a memorandum with the self-declared Republic of Somaliland has caused significant geopolitical ripples. Ethiopia gained strategic access to a key maritime facility by securing a 50-year lease for the Berbera port, thereby increasing its trade routes and regional influence. However, the implications extend beyond just economic benefits. The agreement implicitly recognizes Somaliland's autonomy, challenging its diplomatic isolation within the complex dynamics of Somali internal governance. This development has further strained Ethiopia's relations with Somalia. The latter sees this agreement as a violation of its territorial integrity and national unity, and interprets it as an affront to Somali sovereignty. The accusation that Ethiopia is jeopardizing regional stability highlights the sensitivity of geopolitical maneuvers in this area. The tensions between Ethiopia and Somalia are about more than just a port lease. They also reveal the intricate web of alliances and rifts that shape the Horn of Africa's geopolitical dynamic. Nonetheless, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has been remarkably confrontational since taking office in 2018, warning last year that he was willing to go to war for port access, which he appears to regard as a matter of national security. So, in this video, we'll look at Somaliland's unrecognized status, the agreement between Somaliland and Ethiopia, and what might happen next. Before we begin, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to stay up to date and be notified when we release new videos. Somaliland's historical trajectory is inextricably linked to the struggle for recognition and autonomy. Somaliland was established as a separate entity from the rest of Somalia in 1960, after gaining independence from British colonial rule, and 35 nations recognized it as a sovereign state. This recognition laid the groundwork for Somaliland's pursuit of self-government, which stood in stark contrast to Somalia's turbulent landscape. Despite Somaliland's efforts to highlight its stability and democratic governance, the international community has yet to recognize its independence. Ethiopia's quest for a Red Sea port is linked to this narrative because access to the sea is strategically important for landlocked countries like Ethiopia. Somaliland's strategic location on the Red Sea coast makes it a viable partner for Ethiopia's ambitions. The pursuit of a stable and reliable port for Ethiopia has resulted in discussions and potential collaborations between the two organizations. As a result, the intersection of Somaliland's historical struggle for recognition and Ethiopia's pursuit of a Red Sea port highlights the region's complex geopolitical dynamics, which shape alliances and aspirations while balancing historical legacies and current strategic needs. The rapid merger of Italian Somaliland and British Somaliland to form the Somali Republic resulted in significant disparities and challenges for the newly unified nation. The vast difference in population sizes between the two regions, Italian Somaliland is roughly 8 times larger than British Somaliland, created a power imbalance. The North, formerly known as British Somaliland, was frequently marginalized within the unified Somali Republic. The disparities were evident in a variety of areas, including political representation and resource allocation, with the North frequently feeling overlooked or sidelined by the more populous South's dominant influence. This power asymmetry became more apparent with decisions like the adoption of Somalia's first constitution in 1961. The document received overwhelming support from the southern region, indicating a lack of equitable representation or attention to the concerns and needs of the northern territories. As a result, the hasty unification without addressing these imbalances paved the way for future challenges in the Somali Republic, adding to tensions and discontent within the country's governance structure. Following the collapse of Siad Barre's dictatorship in Somalia in 1991, the Somalia National Movement, primarily made up of northern rebels, seized the opportunity to advocate for Somaliland's autonomy. They used the upheaval to declare Somaliland independent, returning the country to its former British protectorate borders. This move laid the groundwork for Somaliland's autonomous existence, free of Somalia's volatile landscape. In 2001, Somaliland held a referendum to solidify its bid for independence. 97% of Somaliland's population supported independence, cementing the country's separation from Somalia. Since then, Somaliland has operated autonomously, demonstrating a distinct level of stability and governance that distinguishes it from the turbulence and disarray that characterizes the rest of the region. Its self-declared independence and subsequent sustained governance have established Somaliland as a notable model of stability and governance in a region plagued by instability and conflict. In fact, they've held 5 peaceful elections with 3 different presidents. And in 2017, Freedom House named Somaliland the only free country in East Africa. Now the country is impoverished, but it has its own government, currency, passports, police force, license plates, and even a consulate in Washington. Despite this, neither the United Nations nor Somalia recognize Somaliland, which does not want to lose a significant portion of its sovereign territory. Anyway, you should be aware of Ethiopia's ongoing efforts to establish a Red Sea port. Again, we've done a video on this before, but the point is that Ethiopia's political class has long been concerned about the country's lack of port access, particularly since Eritrea's independence in 1993 and the Ethiopia-Eritrea War in 1998. Before 1993, Eritrea was a federalized part of Ethiopia, giving Ethiopia access to the Red Sea, and the Assab port in Eritrea's south accounted for roughly 70% of Ethiopia's external trade. However, when Eritrea declared independence in 1993, Ethiopia became landlocked. Fortunately, relations were initially friendly, and Eritrea permitted Ethiopia to continue using its ports. However, the bonds between Ethiopia and Eritrea were ruptured in 1998 when war broke out over a disputed border region, leading Eritrea to deny Ethiopia access to its ports. In response, Ethiopia entered an agreement with Djibouti to utilize its main port, Djibouti, now responsible for over 90% of Ethiopia's international trade. This solution, however, is flawed. Ethiopia pays $1.5 billion annually in port fees, and reliance on Djibouti's port and the A1 motorway was evident during the Tigray War, when concerns arose about Tigrayan rebels blocking the A1 highway. To diminish dependency on Djibouti, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has sought access to other Red Sea ports, including constructing a transportation corridor to Kenya's Lamu port. The peace agreement with Eritrea in 2018 likely involved efforts to restore access to the Assab and Massawa ports, but these attempts have not yielded substantial results. Following a recent peace deal with Tigrayan rebels, jeopardizing access to Eritrea's Red Sea ports, Ethiopia and Somaliland announced a 50-year access lease to the Berbera port in western Somaliland. This agreement provides Ethiopia with the sought-after port access and tacit diplomatic recognition from the region's largest country, allowing Somaliland to address its international isolation. Somalia vehemently opposed this move, declaring the agreement null and void and accusing Ethiopia of flouting international norms, leading to the recall of its ambassador. While this situation echoes a 2017 agreement that fell through, recent comments suggest Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is determined to secure port access, considering it in Ethiopia's national interest based on his experience with the Grand Republic. The context of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, situated at the Blue Nile's top, adds complexity, with Egypt and Sudan opposing it due to concerns about reduced Nile water flow. Somalia's President Mohammed and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed have employed strong rhetoric, raising concerns about future conflicts. An Ethiopian official suggested to The Economist that if port access cannot be achieved through diplomatic means, war may be the only option. While direct conflict remains unlikely, this development contributes to the region's instability. If you enjoyed this video, thank you for watching until the end. Please leave a like and subscribe to not miss future updates.
Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and share the video, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our African videos. It's the best way to support us.